Hey there boys, today we're going to be talking about the World Drop weapons which came out this season. They are actually extremely strong, and sadly one of the rarer weapons in the game. So we had 4 World Drop weapons drop this season, and that's going to be the Parabellum, the Crux Termination, the Marcado, and the Ross Aragos. So let's go ahead and have a look at the god rolls for all 4 of these weapons, and we'll go ahead and start off with the Parabellum SMG. The Parabellum is a solar 900 RPM SMG. It's unfortunately not a lightweight frame, it's an adaptive, but it's not the end of the world in PvE, because where this thing really shines is going to be in the perks and also the origin trait. Now, to be entirely honest with you, this thing is a little bit of a one-trick pony. It pretty much has one god roll, and that's the only thing you want, so it's going to be a pretty rare item to get. And that roll you're looking for is going to be Shoot to Loot and Frenzy. This is a perk combination that we have available on the Ikelos SMG, and I would say it's also the god roll for that weapon in the current meta. Legendary primaries are not the greatest choice for ag clear because they don't really have any of the benefits that exotic primaries have, like the 40% damage bump and the better ammo generation using the helmet mods, which are the main reasons to be using a primary. So something that can really make a primary shine is going to be its utility abilities, and by having Shoot to Loot, it has great utility, and then Frenzy adding on the reload speed and damage in one perk instead of the normal 2 you'd need to have a damage and reload perk, you end up with a really well-rounded primary that you can use for a lot of situations, and unlike a trace rifle, it's able to produce ammo using the ammo finder mods. If you're not a big Shoot to Loot enjoyer, this thing is also capable of getting rewind rounds, which is a pretty uncommon perk on SMGs. Now, the main benefit that this thing has over the Ikelos SMG is that it is going to be solar, which means that it can do things like extend Empyrean on solar builds, and specific to Season 23 this season, we have a lot of artifact mods relevant to solar weapons, like getting Radiant off of using them, causing explosions with it using the Radiant, so it's an insane weapon, especially right now this season, but even without that, it's still going to be a great choice. And moving on, we're going to have the Crux Termination. So Aegis and his team of super OP damage testers actually tested, and this thing, sure enough, gets the highest sustained DPS in the game now for a weapon. So definitely an interesting pick, although very niche and hard to set up to do so. However, outside of that very specific setup, there's actually a ton of crazy rolls on this rocket launcher. Unlike the Parabellum, this is not a one-trick pony at all. It's got pretty much all of the most powerful reload perks in the game, and of course it's got surrounded in the 4th column for damage, and it's also got explosive light. However, it does not have bait and switch, so it's not going to be completely meta defining or take over Apex's spot or anything like that. Rockets are the current king of DPS right now, so it is going to be a great pick in any situation, and while I don't think it's going to be dethroning the versatility that Apex has, I do think that in very specific niche situations, it could definitely do more damage. Now, before we move into the next one, I wanted to quickly thank everybody who's been watching the videos. It's much appreciated. Your support means the world to me. We've been getting a ton of support lately. It means the world to me, and if you like my videos, make sure to subscribe and leave a comment with your thoughts below. My absolute favorite thing is getting to go and read comments. I get notifications on my phone every time I get one, so I'll always read it. And without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the next weapon. So for these next 2, I don't actually own good rolls of them, so I'm going to be using other weapons which are kind of similar and are like maybe halfway to the god roll to show off the gameplay here. However, keep in mind that this is an incomplete version of the build, so it's going to be even better when I get the actual rolls on these world drops, because they do have exclusive perks that you can't get on any other setups right now. And next up we have the Marcado 45. I believe that the Marcado 45 is probably the weakest world drop to come out this season. However, it has still got some interesting unique setups, so let's have a look at that. So we can see right away in the 3rd column we pretty much only have Slice and of course Demolitionist in the 3rd tree, which is great and not all that common, and we actually have an exclusive combination of Demolitionist and Golden Tricorn, which is pretty much the best machine gun configuration in the game you could possibly get, except it's on a strand weapon, so you don't throw normal grenades that just like do damage for the most part on strand, because you're typically using grapples or shackles for the suspend, and while some people do use threadlings, they still do a lot less damage than regular grenades, and it's just not a great pick. If this was on any other element, it would be absolutely amazing, and it would be a really great combo, especially if it was solar, but unfortunately it's not. I also mentioned Slice because I think that this is one of the weapon types that perk is actually worthwhile on. If you didn't know, Slice has a very special ability to actually apply Sever to invincible bosses, which is a pretty uncommon thing to be able to do. Most other sources of Sever, namely the Navigator, are not able to apply Sever to bosses which are under an immune shield. That said, there's a lot of weapons that can get Slice, like the fusion rifle this season, that really don't get that great of a use out of it. However, I actually think Slice is a good pick on a machine gun, because it's typically your Agleer/utility slot. This machine gun is also the only one in the game to have Onslaught, which is a perk that came out this season, which increases your fire rate whenever you get kills. It has a very short timer, but it is a very big bump in fire rate. Of course, you have to keep in mind that this is going to be eating your ammo faster, so it's probably not as good as a regular damage perk, but it is the only weapon in the game to have it, so if you do want it, then it's on this thing. And our final entry is going to be the Ross Aragos Auto Rifle. So the Ross Aragos is going to be our Void Synergy weapon of the season, I'd say, considering it has some amazing perks to do so. So right away we can see in the third column we pretty much have the choice between Rewind Rounds, Repulsor Brace, and Subsistence, which are all really good perks on an auto rifle obviously. And in the fourth tree we have Golden Tricorn, Onslaught, and Surrounded. And these are all great perks on an auto rifle, especially a 600 RPM. You should be relatively close range, so the Surrounded should proc decently often. I think it's probably the least useful one of the bunch, especially compared to Golden Tricorn being able to have a refreshable 50% buff. My personal pick is going to be Repulsor Brace with Golden Tricorn, just because typically Void builds are grenade spam, and they really synergize with having a Void weapon, so obviously Tricorn makes sense there because we're going to be beefing up our gun and our grenades. And in the background footage, I was using Verity's Brow with this setup and just tossing Void Wall nades. They actually do really good damage, they're just kind of hard to hit with, but it was really just something I slapped together for the video. And you can see, even using this auto rifle I have that only has Golden Tricorn, it has Perpetual Motion as the other perk, which might as well be nothing. So pretty much only Golden Tricorn, and on a worse archetype for PvE with being a 450, this thing is still doing a great job keeping up. So I'm definitely excited to get a well-rolled Ross Aragos for sure. And that's going to be the video. If you made it to the end, thank you so much for watching. And for those of you who are still hanging around, I thought I'd talk about the future of the channel some, and also ask for a little bit of feedback. I've been really working on my editing skills and upping the production quality of the videos and the thumbnails, and I really want to know if people have noticed it, or if you think I should work on anything. So yeah, let me know in the comments. And besides that, I thought I'd let you know what the next video or one of the future videos is going to be. I've made friends with a bit of a PvP YouTuber. He's a smaller channel just like myself, and he focuses more on PvP and trials, and we're going to be duo queuing into trials and trying to go flawless next weekend. So if you want to see that, make sure to subscribe to the channel.